Hello, we're live.
Hello, how are
Uh,
you?
Not bad, not bad. So, welcome to our July event. It's been a few months since we last did one of these. I think January was it? With Patch My PC. Maybe?
Yeah, we've had a few months off now, haven't we?
Need a little break from the excitement.
Yeah.
This week we have Samik Roy, a lead cloud developer at Open Systems, the company I now work for, joining us for a deep dive of Defender Advanced Hunting, and we'll hand over to him in a moment when he arrives because it's not here yet. But before we start that, thanks for joining. Obviously, we will be running a quiz this time round at the end, focused on Microsoft 365 security, and the winner will receive 100-ish pounds. I say 100-ish because we translate it to the um, equivalent in whatever country whoever wins in Amazon vouchers just in time for Prime Day, which apparently is now a thing. I didn't know that before today. Um, for that, just make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are watching on YouTube, just so you can chat with us and let us know um, who you are. So if you do win, but as I say, £100, it's not too bad. And that will be shortly after Samik's talk. Speaking of Samik, he has just joined us, so I'll just bring him to the chat. Hi, Samik.
Hello.
Yeah, I can see him, just can't hear him.
Can you hear us, Samik?
It is muted by default. You might be on mute. Before we hand over to Samik to learn about Defender, I thought I'd just throw the conversation open to. I was going to say the team actually when I thought this through, but we haven't got a team today, Andy. We've just got us and Samik, because unfortunately Simon is not available today, and Dan unfortunately is not available today, so it is just us. Um, how are you doing? It's been a while, right?
Yeah, it's been a good break actually. I think I got a few things to say, and that is basically so thanks to people that are either watching now or get to watch this on playback. But the channel per se has been going really well. We have been adding content onto it. And we've been getting some really good responses. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for doing that. Um, and basically going forward, we've got more content. We're planning to do more and more. We're even thinking about doing maybe a little bit of a refresh of the channel, maybe rebrand it. Some of our videos and that have been put up there now have been there for over a year. We started this down back in lockdown, so we're gonna have a little bit of a refresh. Maybe even reach out to you guys if you got any ideas, if you want to be involved with that. So we'll be doing that, and there will be more content. Dean, I think you've got some endpoint Defender for endpoint stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Some YubiKey. So there's a bit of security. There's I suppose a trend at the moment with a lot of security focus going on. I've been doing a little bit of that myself. So plenty of content to come, more live sessions. We're planning on doing around about once a month, depending on kind of feedback maybe. But yeah, that's kind of where our roadmap, if you like, for the channel's going at the moment. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I mean, the security focus for me is certainly there. I've joined a security company. We're an MSSP. We're solely security. So that's certainly different from when I was with the likes of CDW and BT. So yeah, Open Systems really has a focus on that. We do professional services, obviously, but it really is all about the security side of it. So we deliver Intune in order to deliver Defender for Endpoint, for example. So that really has changed my focus, which is why a lot of my content recently has been on the security stuff, because that's what I'm learning about day to day. I throw the odd autopilot stuff in there because that's really interesting, and it's something I've known for quite a while, so I do tend to throw that in there. So we have lost Samik. Just to fix his mic, he did message me on Teams.
Going to try and come back.
So hopefully he'll come back in just a moment. But I'll just briefly talk about the quiz then, because we're going to do this slightly differently. We're about 10 to 15 seconds delayed on the stream versus live. So if we were to run a quiz where I read out the questions for you and you answered on your phone, then you'd have seen the answer like 15 seconds after I read. No, seen the answer 15 seconds before I read the question to you. So it wouldn't really work. So what we're going to do is just play some music, some nice lo-fi beats, while while we just play through the quiz in silence. Otherwise, just to not distract you, so you can just get through the quiz. About 8 questions, but the same format as the other quizzes. If you have joined us for them, it'll be right at the end of the show, and you can just hopefully get through that. The only slight difference between all of the other ones we've done is that you don't get to see what the right answer was if you got it wrong. So it just doesn't show you that on your phone. It just says you got it wrong. Too bad. But hopefully you'll be able to see that on the screen when we're going through it. But that's the only slight difference from most of our live events. Still no Samik. Good.
It's what we love. We love to see this when we get back into the groove.
This is the first hiccup we've had, isn't it? And thanks to the 11 or so people sticking with us for this bit.
Let's open it up, right? Before we just wait, right? These things happen. Is there anyone currently got any questions to anything that we kind of do on this channel, really? So, rather than just this topic we got here today, feel free to open up the questions that you've got to us. Fill a bit of time, basically.
Well, we have a couple of people in the chat. We've got Pihaz and Felipe and Dan. Thanks for helping out in the chat there, because I hadn't spotted that just yet. But yeah, the whole point of this group, really, the cloud management user group that we started back in April 21. Was it April 21?
Yeah. February.
Maybe actually early, maybe February. It was all about building a community for people to share content, share ideas, and share the love of cloud management and interest in cloud management based on Teams back then. But we've grown into producing a lot of content ourselves, and the best format for producing that content we found was Teams. So not Teams, YouTube. So we've naturally grown to move the community events to this as well. But any feedback would be greatly appreciated, and we do have a Facebook group. We haven't got LinkedIn, have we? We haven't got a LinkedIn page for
No,
we
don't.
But yeah, contact myself or Andy. Well, our Twitter handles are on the just to the left of our faces. Just give us a shout. Let us know what you think of what we're doing here. Obviously, don't give us too much feedback on this one, because this is not going to
according to plan.
Smoothly.
Sure, it won't be the last time, but definitely the first. So that's a plus.
Yeah, indeed. Good. So what I talked to Samik about, what this session was all about, was really to understand how Samik is a Sentinel expert, right? He was very close to the Sentinel development back in the day, and so he has a lot of understanding and knowledge around that particular product. But this session is more on the cloud management side of that, Defender for Endpoint, really, to understand how you can do advanced hunting using that product to understand more about threats that exist in the environment. And I've seen Samik do a similar talk before, but it wasn't really a talk. It was more actually in work and for a customer, and it is really powerful. So I am looking forward to seeing it again, but in a more relaxed setting. I say relaxed, nothing relaxed about me right now. So
there's a question in the chat from Phat. What do you find are good selling points for Defender for Endpoint over third-party alternatives? Okay, I mean, I'm no expert in this area, but I would say, just from my experience, I've worked with a little bit of Imperium and had a little bit of interaction in around, say, CrowdStrike. And then more recently, Defender for Endpoint, for sure, looked into that. And for me, I think if you compare those or even more extensive products, you're going to get very much a like for like. But I would say that the Defender for Endpoint maybe doesn't quite reach some of the features that some of the others do. But then, generally speaking, if you're already got, say, an E5 license and you're starting to use it, you're not only getting that, right? You're getting other options within the suite, the software suite. So, and it gives you a lot of capability in managing those policies, that how you deploy it. That's for me is the power and the integration with all the other Microsoft software. So my limited experience, that's kind of what I would say on the fringes of, to answer that question. I don't know if that gives you much. I know, Dean, clearly you've got a lot more. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I've got a couple of points. Just before I do give an answer, Samik, can you just test your audio? Can you see if you can give us any audible confirmation that you're here? There is a settings button in Restream
Is
where you can.
my audio clear now?
Yes, that's better. I
Yes.
can hear you. I can hear you.
Hello.
Yeah,
Awesome.
wonderful.
Thanks for
And
joining.
so
I was
I
going to.
think,
Hi. Just going to briefly
sorry for
answer
being
P-Has. That's all right.
That's all right.
So, from my perspective, saying Defender for Endpoint versus CrowdStrike, it isn't really a fair comparison. It's not apples for apples because CrowdStrike is huge, right? It's a whole platform that does many things. In the same way that Microsoft 365 Defender is a huge platform that does many things. So you've got to compare M365 Defender versus CrowdStrike or another platform, right? So that's where Defender for Endpoint is really good at defending endpoints. It's not very good at defending other things, right? But as Andy said, you get with the E5 security license and E5, you get the whole suite. So you don't need to pick and choose. And a lot of products like CrowdStrike will make you add on those additional features as you need to for additional costs. So they come in really low price and then ramp it up. So we were just filling a little bit of time before you joined, Samik. So thanks for joining. I appreciate you had some difficulty with the audio there. So do you want to add your screen to the stream for me so I can put it onto screen for everyone?
Yeah, definitely. So let me share.
Thank you for the question, P-Has.
In the stream?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I got something to add in. It doesn't appear to have any content on it, but it's.
So let me try to present. Right, I got a. Okay, so I got a little presentation, very less slide. So I'm just planning to spend more time on the portal itself, right, and see how we can proceed from there. If that's right, I'll.
Okay. That's good.
Start
I'll let you know when I can see the presentation. Not yet. No, I've got a sort of dark grey screen.
Okay. Dark green. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have.
It should be coming. You should be seeing now.
No, I'll try removing and re-adding it. No, I've still got this dark grey screen. That is what I'm seeing being sent from you.
Yeah.
In the input.
Yeah, I will. Yes. Next screen, the presentation.
Yes, I can see PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Wonderful. So
but it's the PowerPoint view, so I can see
the slides are very so. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't think we necessarily to go to presentation mode, and they should fine now,
Yep.
right?
All good.
Yep. So thanks, Andy, and everyone. I know in live now here. All right. So today we gonna discuss a little bit about what advanced hunting is. I mean, is it a term specific to or Microsoft Team like Microsoft Sent, right? So I'd quickly skip my introduction slide. We will try to answer questions or try to answer three questions, right? When you talk about advanced hunting, what you need and what question. So basically, these I have just kept it short to make sure we stand. To start small, and maybe we had to be very, very specific to the uses when you talk about advanced hunting, because the word itself is that advanced hunting is something maybe we have from incident, or we have a defender, right, which is already there. Maybe it is from defender for office, maybe it is from defender for endpoint, or anywhere, any of the defenders, right? So fundamentally this should give us an extra privilege little deeper, and then under alert more, right? And then do certain other things like if you want to correlate other hashes or correlate other addresses to solidify that it is a true positive. Or so yeah, that's where three things revolves. Go to the next one, and then obviously we have a Q&A session opened up at the end, right? So what to have, and it's a fundamental question to answer. It's like to have a defender license, right? I think before I start, there's a discussion going on in that on the licensing and the comparison of other products, right? So obviously need a defender license, right? And then the in the tenant we are testing, that has to have the defender rolled out, so that at least we can get some machines over here and then get some data to do our advanced hunting. So yeah, now when you talk about what we need to have, right, and when you talk about defender rollout, now it's not always necessary that we have to investigate only on an alert. There might be cases, right, once we have the defender rollout, we don't have the policies set, we don't have the complete setup done, we have just onboarded the machine, right? At that certain point of time, if we want to understand the landscape by enrolling the defender, for example, how many machines we have and what are the network connectivity they're using, what sort of files getting generated. So this is not exactly related that has to happen when alert is created. It can be done independently, or that even that's where the defender advanced hunting comes in. So that's where I have not mentioned that you have to have at least one alert. The moment you have the machines enrolled, they start on ingesting the data to the defender portal, and it stays there for a month, right? And after that it just version. So now if you want to have the data to be there for a long time, either you have to stream it to seem like Sentinel, or you have to make sure that it gets stored into another storage if you really want to have something like forensics at later point of time. So
Just
with that, I think yeah.
sorry, that was how long does it stay in Defender or the portal by default? Did you say?
So what happens is, as for Microsoft, I have seen cases for a new portal enrollment, it takes around till 24 hours. Even the portal to be provisioned fully, because it has to provision schema and things like that. But once the portal is provisioned, right, once we run the onboarding script in at least one machine, maybe within max 15 to 20 minutes, the data starts coming in. So
And how
it's
how
like
long
more
would
of
a
a thing like when you plan.
alert last in the portal for before it's purged? I
Right
just
now,
didn't.
that's on. So the alert longevity is little longer, and there's settings on the show. It can be extended till 120 days, right? How long you want to keep the alert? But when you talk about advanced hunting, right, that's more of there's a hard cap of 1 month for that to be there. So if you need to have that for longer period, either we stream it to Sentinel, or we have any other third party APIs or vendors to store them.
Thanks.
Yeah. So that, and yeah. Now let me go to the next one. What we need to know, right? So as I was talking about, that's not necessary that we have it at least for one alert to see what's there inside the portal. So that's table schema. And if we look at table schema as of today, it basically is divided into 5 categories. One, alert, which includes our alerts and alert evidence. So when you talk about alerts, if we have configured the full E5 suite, right, all the alerts related to even your MCAS alerts, Defender for identity alerts, Defender for endpoint alerts, right, all basically comes and stores into this alert section. And if we expand it out, which we are going to show in the demo, that it's going to have one is alert info, and then one is alert evidence. So these are 2 tables which are responsible to store your alert. But fundamentally, or at a basic setup, you will find them empty, because as long as there's no alert, it's nothing to show there. The next one is a app and identities section, in the schema to app and identities. And this is purely dependent on our enrollment of identity, right? Once we have the identity sensor enrolled, and that's going to bring up all the directory events, things like that. All those data sets and alerts are basically going to come and sit under this apps and identities, right? And the next one is devices, and I would say that's the oldest one, because that's exactly dedicated to Defender for endpoint. So that means that contains entire data set related to your Defender for endpoint. For example, events, device info, device network events, device file info, everything whatever we capture as a part of Defender for endpoint, right? And one very specific table is available in the devices, like device info. And if we look at the table, what happens, every 15 minutes, all our machines, all our right, which is sitting on our endpoints, going to do a check into this table. So this table also can act as a heartbeat for all our sensors, right? So basically, if we want to have a query and then see if a machine is not given a heartbeat for maybe a day or two, right? So there might be a possible reason that the machine is not connected to the network, or maybe towards the it might have compromised. So that depends on our enrollment and our understanding of the environment, right? But that's one thing we can quickly check in. And again, that's something we can always do before even any alert comes in, right? So that was on devices. Now, if we have Microsoft Defender for Office enrolled, right, and we have some policy settings available, right, all the email collaboration details will be available under the section of email allocation, right? That's the fundamental highlighted there. And last one is TVM. So initially it was part of the Defender for endpoint, and still it is, but basically Defender has isolated a new feature like threat and vulnerability management, right? That basically stores all your vulnerability data and all your CV information from and it basically creates bunch of tables to get all those information over there, right? And because it's an extension of devices, right, we can always join a devices data, right? So that was more of a schema definition of the entire Defender. And we obviously need to know this because this gives an understanding when you have all the data in, and then where to query for what purpose, right? So that was the first step, what we need to know, right? And then let us look at the next one is query. So QL, Custo query language, all right? So that's the latest trendy language in Azure or in Microsoft Cloud environment, right? Not only in Azure, you can write KQL in log analytics, you can write query in Defender, you can write query to query the Azure itself, right? So that's a quite extensive query language, right? And even if you have Azure Data Explorer, so there also you can write the query language. And if you understand this query language, and once we understand this query language, what happens is, either we are doing an advanced hunting in the Defender portal, right, or maybe we are taking it to maybe ADF, right, Azure, sorry, ADX Explorer, Azure Data Explorer, or maybe Sentinel, right? There also we can use the same query language. So once we write query in one place, that doesn't much at all. That can be reused along with the data where it is streamed, right? And then to get a little handy around, I would like to share a cheat, right? So as an administrator who have worked on SQL, this is somewhere very similar to SQL language, right? So we have a that's kind of one handy thing we should keep, like a bookmark or something, so that we can refer clearly as and when I keep learning, right? And also from a query language standpoint, right, when we start, Defender gives us a privilege to maybe we should start saving the query to reuse it, and it's more of a better for our understanding, right? That was on the query language piece, right? Now with every notion or every Microsoft product, there is something called best practices, and we're going to look at what are the best practices, right? So basically, one thing, whenever we write a KQL query in Defender or in Sentinel or whatever advantage, so Azure, the underlying infrastructure by Microsoft, takes care of query resourcing and query CPU handling. But having said that, we actually are whenever we run a query, right, Defender gives a very um, but minute details about what kind of CPU utilization and what kind of resource utilization is doing. So that becomes a pointer for us to understand how we can improve our query. So let's say if any query we are writing that's taking a huge resource, so maybe we can tune in the query or reduce the query into multiple queries. So that's one thing we should be doing by understanding the resource quotas, right? And obviously there are limitations to it. So the next one, I would say, optimize the query. And once you get the cheat sheet handy, so optimization in the sense, it's almost similar to any other query language. So for example, only project the columns you need, or apply the join which is more precise and more relevant, right? For example, there are two joins, inner and inner unique. So maybe we need to decide as a threat hunter, right, which exactly fits in what position, and then we should apply the join, right? And internally also, KQL engine has some intelligence where, let's say you are trying to join two tables. It is always recommended to keep the smaller table on the left side, because that's how the index is built actually. That's how the build internally when the query is executed in the KQL, right? And the next one goes with summarize, because we will learn in the demo that summarize is one of the best operators to use, because that one operator can give you multiple results in multiple different ways, right? So yeah, that's really powerful. So that's one of the best practices following. And the next thing is, we should um, scenario. So it's like the answer of our tree, like what to find or what is to query. So for example, if we are trying to find a particular hash on a device, right? So we need to understand that under devices there's a particular table which store, like file info is the table, right, where all the file details are stored. So we query file and or file details with a particular where condition with the hash name. We don't try to query all things just to make sure that query is like query gets a lot more bigger scope. That's not the case always. Rather, we should try to scope the query very specifically to each scope, right? So that can be an alert scope, that can be a scenario scope. For example, if you really want to see a mail attachment, if you find out maybe from one of the external sources, or maybe one of your TI sources, that there's a malicious hash figured out in your organization, you should write a query only to email attachment, for example, which is a part of email and collaboration, to find out that hashes wherever the email IDs are there. So we don't need to do in a single query like get me the email IDs. From that email IDs, go to the devices and get me the devices where the user is using. Obviously, you can do that, but the good way to do that is to use a separate query. For example, we write one query to figure out 10 or 15 usernames or email IDs, and then pass it on a variable, and then the variable can be used to pass on another query into device info wherever those user IDs are used to log. So something similar. And the next one is no, we have support for external data. For example, I'd like to show you an example of entire Google Cloud Platform IP ranges that can be queried inside the console. So we don't need to invest any um, we don't need to invest any computation, any install. It's in the portal. We write a few lines of KQL code that's gonna bring all the GCP IP addresses ranges into the portal, and that can be collaborated, or that can be massaged within the existing data source if any one of the network events are collaborating with that IP, something like that. So these are basically things where we should follow best practice. Yeah, I would let me see if I can. So again, I'd like to take a pause. If anyone have um, any questions so far, or Dean, if you'd like to highlight some point on the things mentioned.
No, I mean, what I've seen so far in the chat is just Felipe saying that KQL is, as you say, is perfect for massive amounts of data. So yeah, we haven't got any questions. People can't directly ask questions here; they have to put them in chat. No questions so far. So thank you for the presentation.
I would like to take a little up so that I can have a quick demo. Again, the portal is visible now.
It was for a moment, and now there.
Yep.
I can see it now.
So URL 2, and we should have security admin, and yeah. Is there a question? Something?
No, I think there was a bit of a delay on my audio. No, you're all good. Just go ahead.
Wonderful. So just quickly jump onto the demo, and then thanks again to Din to let me borrow this portal for a moment. So now the URL here at Microsoft.com, and that's where you log in. And on the left navigation, right, we get hunting. And once we click on advanced hunting, you can see there is a lot of tables available, but let me try to reduce them. So we have alerts, we have apps and identities, we have collaboration, we have devices, TVM, right? Under schema. Now, if we look at alerts, right? Alert and low. In slide, we have just talked about the headers, but let's try to look at how to get a schema for each. So now, in the portal, right-hand side is the position where we write our query, right? And then we have a Microsoft documentation link called schema reference, right? And we obviously have help resources if you want to. Right now, you see, before I have written the query, the right hand side pane, run query, save, everything is there, but this is disabled. So let me try to write something on the first query alert. and you see, right, whenever I write a query, it has an intelligence. So first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to select alert info, and then it is even contextual, right? Next time it doesn't give me the table name again. It gives me the exact operator which fits in the second line. So I'm going to say, not going to use them. Let me write something custom. So I'm going to write a get schema function, and you can follow one of the two ways. Either you can hit on the run query, or you can press shift and enter in your keyboard. So that should be running the query. Let me collapse this and drag it a little bit top so that we can see the result. Now this simple query gives the schema for any given table we want to see, and that's really important. If you really want to query one table, that's one way, right? Same thing we can achieve if we expand let's table, right? So its difference is once we write it by query and once is available as a part of the portal itself, right? Now as you can see, when I ran the query, right, it gives me a line intent. This is a recent released feature, and I think it is really helpful because what happens most of the times, we might not have access to the customer environment, right? We'll be in a remote screen sharing session, and we have to guide the customer SOC analyst or SOC engineer to write the right query. So in that way, when we are over call and screen sharing session, this indentation and the line number becomes very handy to refer to troubleshoot a query. So yep. Now after this, after we execute this query, right, we can see the results, and then like it gives you a total summary of all the response it has. That means 8 items, right? And as I was talking about, right, how long it took to execute and what was the resource utilization, right? So it was a slow query. This doesn't put any load in the in the server in Azure, right? Also, what happens is the moment we write a query and the results are rendered, this this interface has a chart option. So if I apply, you see that got automatically, it understood the result schema. I don't need to define anything. I just applied the chart type, and then it got converted by chart, right? It might not work always. Let me see if I can. Yeah, column chart, it works. Let me see, right? So it is intelligent, but not to the fullest. So this is one way to utilize your code, and then you can apply some chart, and then let me go back to the column chart again. Yeah. So that's one way of getting more insights about the data. Let me quickly, yeah, more insights around the data, right? Now, there are cases when we are trying hunting, the schema might not be enough, right? We also need to know what kind of data it has. Let me try to write device info, and there is, again, this is the best practice. So I do take 10, right? And there is a time filter which is applied by default for last 7 days. We can go last 30 within the query. To 30 days, see the result, right? Now, by running this, you can see still the region is row. That means the query is faster. And why it is faster? Because device info might have in sub rows, but when you take 10, right, we are querying a limited set of data. So that increases the query performance. So whenever you try to do something new, right, let's say let a bigger query, and it's always a good idea either to use limit or use tech, right? Based on that, the number of responses will appear and the query will definitely get a little faster. Now, after we have done take 10, right, two things happened. Now we know the schema, right? We also know right? Because client version, if we apply get schema, or let us go back to the right hand side here, and if I go to devices, and if I go info, we might see that what are the columns are there, but this doesn't what kind of data it has and what's the data pattern is. That's where we write an actual query with a limit. So that's another advantage of using take 10. And we can always export the data, right? We can apply a chart and we can customize column. So you see it is, yeah, if we customize the can just conditionally show an some column. So this is more of a cosmetic changes, right, based on kind of data and how much data we need. Now this was demo, and then let me try to get this was one more, right? Now let me try to get something over here. I think I messed up something. Okay, I think I have a query here. Let me go back and then not really. Okay, no worries. I'll try to get something over. Yep. So just to show you, here's the query I have, and then if you look at what we're trying to do with this query, right? We're trying to get this data which is available, published as a part of this vendor, and it's free. So all we are doing is we're trying to get that hash, right? And then once we do that, we have all the hashes. So for the same goes with CSV and JSON. You can always do that. And assuming that our email attachment has some data, right? We can simply try to write query, and then in query we are getting the data externally, and then we can getting it, trying to attach it from email attachment info, and we're just getting what is 1 day old, and then try to run this. So for this might not give you any result, but this is fundamentally the way to do it actually. So you get the reference from external data, and then you can join any of the internal table like email attachment info, and then try to find the common methods, right? So that was another example, I'd say, on how do we advance hunting data sources with external data, right? Let me try to get another example if I can. And I'd say, let me see. I go for GCP, and then I'm gonna create, and when I keep creating, as you can see, multiple tab creations available. That means we can simultaneously run multiple queries in here. So with this, we're trying to get the GCP IP ranges. And now if you want to see, let's say if you have different cloud or different anyhow multi-cloud range is available, you can just correlate and try to point out what's there in Google Cloud, or what are the traffics coming from Google Cloud here, right? So these are the example which we can query right away, right? Now coming back to the place of the tables, right? As we have shown in the presentation, alert contains alert info, alert evidence, and apps and identities, identity info, log on events, query events. All those are basically either MCAS, cloud app security, or defender for identity, and there are tables which are beta as well. So that means they're still evolving. Now, the next cell is we have email events, which is coming from Microsoft Defender for Office. Uh, we have email events, attachment info, URL info as well, delivery event, and the click event as well. And the next one is device, right? Device info, device network info, device process event, device network events, device file events, registry events, log on, image load, and device events and certificate info as well. So all these are very specific to Defender. So wherever you have the Defender agent installed, it's going to show you all data. And if I just go back to the query, right? So let me try to see. I'll say device info and summarize ARG max timestamp by computer. Oops, why it is? Let me run this query. I see why it is not running. Okay, I just need to comment it out here and run this real quick. Now you can see device name is the column I was trying to put. Yeah. So just that it has, as you can see, it has like I enrolled a couple of machines some time back. So this is kind of a heartbeat here, right? And everything has a public IP. So as I was talking about, this can be a heartbeat over here. And then this time I'll try to apply time chart. See, it is actually plotting the chart, right? Though because the data is minimal, so it is not showing up that much, but it is plotting the time chart, which it was not doing when we ran the query last time, right? Now getting back to pie chart. Yep. So it has 4 devices, right? And by hovering on that, you can get more info around that, right? So that was how do we manage all the Defender data, right? So just an extension, we can actually query TVM all the threat and vulnerability management data over here. For example, what are the software vulnerabilities, what are the KBs are there, how many assessments are executed, and what's the result for them, what's the software inventory, and what's the software evidence, right? Everything is available. And then let me go up to settings where we should be able to see the data purging. So it's a Defender, Microsoft 365 Defender. And okay, it's gonna take a while to load the data, so I'm gonna reload it. So again, feel free to have any questions, any thoughts, or maybe if you have any use case, in short, also try to discuss on that. Advanced hunting again. So what happens is, let's try to select out the schema. Now these are the categories we have, right? And then apart from that, let's say if you write something, right, we have an option. Let me go to this query. You have an save them, right? You can save as, or you can save it as a new query, and then you can save it to shared query. So if you are learning, you can always have them in my queries so that anybody else cannot see them. And if you want to make it like a generic one, you can always shared queries, right? Now, and obviously we can have a share link, right? So with this, what happens is, let's say if I copy paste this to maybe Dean, who is having access to this portal, right? Once he opens this link, he will exactly come to this point and also have this query loaded and executed. So means I'm sharing a version of this session to Dean. That's how the sharing works here, right? And as you can see, we have mentioned this time the query, right? The moment we do that, this editor is smart enough to understand it set in query right now. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to change it to current, and then, ideally, let me see. Yeah, see, it is again back to 30 days. So let me do it again. Yeah. So when the moment I do that, right, it's going to change in a while setting. That's how the change happened. So that's the pivotal column. So any and every row in the workspace is ingested based on this timestamp. So for each row, you can find a different timestamp column over here, right? Now, once we save them, right, they can be actually saved. See, right, and these are like a variable function, and then you can definitely create your own if you want to extend them, right? And you can also save them in queries, and have queries based on the events and techniques, techniques you have, right? For example, if you go to email queries, right, it has about phishing and phishing email director, right? So if I just try to click any of them, right, so it's gonna open that and then load that query over here, right? And as I was talking about keeping the query short, right? So you see this query is very base 64 decoder. So yeah, as you can see, this as well, right? This has very specific conditions over here. So it has its own purpose. It is not like we're trying to achieve everything in one query. Not like a projection query. It's more of a selection query is recommended to build and keep them saved. Yeah. And yeah, that's an obvious written in advanced hunting. It can be altered, but right now, because we do not have anything, so that's where I'd say we can look at the detection rules here. Let's try to put one. So let me say email, read about this, email notifications, preview features. It says streaming APIs. This is the place actually in streaming APIs. Let me come here and let it load, wherein you can actually store or Azure storage, or maybe. So whenever we go to Sentinel and then enable it, we can see one connection being built here from here Sentinel. So if I add, and you can choose what to come in here, right? And yeah, store it to one of the things. Now, so I think that was it. I mean, we have other options, in the Defender portal, and the portal itself is huge enough to spend plenty of time. But if you talk about advanced hunting, that's where we should be focusing on in advanced hunting tab. And also, once we learn a little bit of KQL here, right, is Jupyter available online, which can be referred, so that you can do your data analysis, data massaging over there as well with the service. So over to you, team.
Thanks. I didn't want to interrupt you, but thank you for that. That was really helpful. I think it's fair to say, I'll drop your screen there so we can chat. It's fair to say that based on what I've already seen of advanced hunting before this session, and then also what you've just shown, I really think I'll just leave it to the experts, right? So people like yourself and companies like our company, Open Systems, who kind of deliver this for an entire estate using Sentinel, many organizations, because well, I just can't get my head around all the different when you had the error where you corrected a command that you were a KQL query that you were writing. I wouldn't have been able to correct that within the 5 or 6 seconds it took you to fix that. I would have been there for months probably trying to find that little star that you needed to put in there. So I think that's, I will leave that to the experts, and you've obviously had a lot of experience to get to where you are now with getting this into your head. And I don't think it's for me, but hopefully everyone else had learned a lot from that. If you have any questions for Samik, please put them into chat. One thing I did think though is the question from P has earlier on about the why you would use Defender for Endpoint. I think it's good to point out that one of the things you showed was that you were able to get data points from Defender for Office 365, Defender for Identity, and Defender for Endpoint, all in the same Microsoft 365 security portal or security.microsoft.com. And that means you can correlate it all by timestamp, right? So you can look at that data as one big heap of data rather than having to go into disparate systems to understand what's going on. So that's awesome. Andy, any comments?
And
no, it's an education for me. Something it's not something I've gone into myself. So certainly an education. I mean, can you get? This might be a very out there question, right? But on a typical day in kind of supporting a customer, are these the sort of things you're doing or not?
Yes. So basically, I help customer to enroll in Sentinel, not directly in SOC, but with my interaction with SOC and in customer environment, right? So it's important to know this, because as Dean rightly pointed out, right, not that we go to this portal to query one table. It's more of a use for correlation. So there's a different alert. We found what other place or what impacted due to that alert, right? That's the most thing I would say. That's one thing. And second thing is I'll talk a little bit about getting to Sentinel, right? Not even Sentinel. Whenever you're trying to write detection, or Microsoft has a machine learning model running behind any product we buy on Security Suite, right? So the more coverage we have in terms of endpoint, if we have a machine which is Azure AD joint and I have to use my UPN to log in, and that also is enrolled into Defender for Endpoint, right? The security becomes more robust in terms of my email identity and as my endpoint, right? So I'm I would say, and that makes right. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. I was on mute there for a second. And I've got 2 screaming kids right outside my door. So apologies if you can hear anything. It is bath time for them. So thank you, Samik. That was awesome. It is over to our quiz now. So thank you to everyone who stuck around. Thank you to everyone who's taking part in this. As I said at the start, maybe you didn't catch that. We will be running this slightly differently because the stream is running about 10 to 20 seconds late versus live. We're going to put the questions onto your device. So we'll share the I'll share it now actually, so you've got a chance to join. I'll share it now. There you go. So you got a chance to join, and there we go. So what we're going to do is, if you go to menti.com and then type in that code, you'll get this. You'll get a chance to join. Please try and join with a meaningful name, something that we can identify you in the future. If you do win, if we can't identify you, then we're not going to be able to, be sure it's you and give you the prize. So don't, create a wacky name just for fun. Please do make it something that we can tie to someone on Twitter or, that kind of thing. But really, it's going to be displayed just on your device. So you'll see the question and the answer on your device, and the possible answers on your device when you're going through the quiz. So it will be shown on this screen, but that's just for fun, really, because you'll have already answered the question by the time you see it on the screen. And I also won't be reading out the questions, because if I'm reading out a question that you've already answered on your phone, that's just going to interrupt you when you're answering the next question. So that's what we're planning to do. In the meantime, I will just add a bit of background music while we go through the quiz. But really, this is just going to fly through 8 questions. And as I say, the prize is £100 in UK, obviously. a bit more in dollars, and then a lot more in the other currencies we might need to deliver that in. But it'll be an Amazon gift card that will deliver. Any comments, Andy? Anything to?
No, just to say it's if you're doing this for the first time, it's not as complicated as it sounds.
Have I made it sound complicated?
No, it's not you. It just you rightly have said and pointed the right points out, but yeah, anyone doing it from start might think that.
Well, at the moment we've only got one contestant, so we might have a winner.
I might join. Should I join?
Yeah, you might as well.
I'll probably lose for sure, but
they are fairly tough questions, actually.
Yeah.
But
we've
yeah,
got people on YouTube. I think there's one or two on Twitter. So if there are people out there, please join in. Throw your hat in. You never know. You might win something here.
well, I just put a tweet out there. It could be the easiest £100 you've ever won, but for whoever this person is, it genuinely would be the easiest £100 if they.
Philippe.
One
F33. Go Philippe.
I mean, we can't. I don't think we can start with one contestant. Unless two.
Here we go.
There's two. We might have competition in our hands. We are running. It is a little bit of a delay on the stream. We've so that we could improve the quality of the screen share. Theoretically, we put an extra delay on there to try and get better screen quality. Unfortunately, Samik was having some difficulties with his internet connection there, so that didn't quite work out. But still, the idea is that the stream isn't blisteringly fast because of that. We have two people.
Just in case there's anyone just wondering whether to join, the site is the address is at the top, and you enter the code. If you're wondering.
Yeah, so you can do that on your mobile phone or on your web browser. Ideally, not the web browser you're using for YouTube, but you can do that however you like. Give it a minute. Three.
Here we go.
3 might be all right.
Three's a goer. I reckon. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thanks to everyone for joining. Right. So as I say, in a few moments, you will probably see this appear on your phone, the question appear on your phone, well before the live stream shows that. So I'm going to kick this off now. Hopefully this will work. We've not done like this before, so we'll just do this. I'll just jump off the screen and you'll see the quiz start. So good luck, everyone. Again, there's no information as to whether you're winning until the end. So good luck. So that was the last question, Andy, which means that we get to reveal who's won. Let's see.
We've got 5 people in the end.
Yeah, indeed. Some joined halfway through. Mars won. I don't know if that's a Twitter handle or what. If you are in the chat, you'll have to let us know who you are so we can identify you and find you and give you that prize. Congratulations to Mars. You are the. You'll also have to let us know whereabouts you're located so we can get the right Amazon voucher to you. But that is awesome. Again, delay is not going to help with the interaction there. Please reach out to the Cloud Management Community on Twitter, or myself or Andy on Twitter to get that prize. Hopefully you can put the message in chat at some point before we switch off. Bad luck to the others who did join a little bit late. I think I've got another slide. I've got. Oh no, there you go. Who did join a little bit late and weren't able to answer the first question there, but never mind. It was deliberately hard though, because that was £100 a lot of money for us. So yeah, we wanted to make sure you had to earn that. But congratulations for that. Any points before we close there, Andy?
Just to say thanks again for joining. But this is the start of a new set of sessions for us, and we're just getting up and going. But join in as much as you can. There will be more prizes coming along, and be really good to have your interaction on some of these sessions. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and just to also say the timing on this session, really 5 p.m. UK, early morning US, and late night India, really was designed purely for Samik to join us without it being too late for him. Going into the very late evening, it wouldn't be fair for him to speak that late. So we brought it forward. We normally go live around 7 p.m. UK time. We might try and get back to that again, depending on the speaker. It has to be at a comfortable time for the speaker to do their session. Everyone else can watch this on a recording if they need to. The speaker has to be there live. So that's why we moved the session to 5 p.m. UK. But hopefully it worked for everyone who's joined us. And obviously we'll have this session available on YouTube at some point soon. Anyway, in fact, immediately after we come off air. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Awesome to be back. Next session will be around about the second Tuesday of August. So yeah, thanks for joining.
Look forward to it.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.